Hi everybody, it's Miss Jessica here, and I wanted to spend some time with you to talk about how we can use our Google Drive to get organized for the 2020-21 school year. Obviously, this is going to be a pretty wild school year, and one of the most important ways to help us be successful is to make sure that we're organized, and our Google Drive can really help us do that. The point of today's program is to just kind of run through some of the basics with the Drive, show us how we can replicate the idea of being organized with notebooks and binders and how we can replicate that process digitally with our Google Drive. Okay, before we talk about exactly how to do some of these organizational tips, we want to talk about why it's important to stay organized, because this is going to be a very different school year, and some of us may be learning virtually or in some kind of hybrid model, or just maybe using more Google Classroom because of our experience with the end of last school year. It's going to be important for us to stay organized so we can keep up with our schoolwork, that we can save time when we're not just constantly looking for files and getting kind of lost in the mix, and so that we don't miss anything. We're going to be sharing files between one another, whether it's teachers to students or students to students. And we want to make sure that we have everything saved and organized in one location so we can quickly find it. Okay, so we want to be able to create a folder for each subject area course. So the same way that you would have a notebook for each class, or a binder for each class, or an actual physical paper folder for each class, you want to create a digital version of that. So all of your handouts, all of your assignments, all of the things you're working on for each class are saved in one singular folder. This way everything is organized and kept separately for each course. So in this case, you would create a science folder, a math folder, a social studies folder, an English folder. Maybe you create one for health or music if you're taking an elective, but each class should have its own folder. You're also going to want to create a personal files folder. This folder is going to be something that you're going to be using not just for this school year. So you may save resumes or important essays you've written, or maybe you've been gathering community service hours and you've been logging those hours and have certificates for them. The idea of your personal files folder is that these are documents that you're going to use year after year. It's not just information for 7th grade. It's going to be information for 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. So we can save all of those important files in one singular location. They aren't necessarily specific to a class, but they're specific to us and our academics and what we're achieving each year. Okay, a couple of quick tips before we get into the Drive itself. Okay, remember that we want to label all of your files and folders clearly. Just labeling something essay doesn't help us. We don't know what class it's for. We don't know what the essay is about. We want to make sure that the title of each document that we have created gives us an explicit name of what it is. So in the case, instead of just labeling essay, you would really want to label it World War II essay. This way we know it's likely a social studies essay. We know the topic that it's about, and we can quickly find it in our Drive. If everything is just labeled essay, we don't know which is what, and it just makes it a lot harder for us to find our documents, and it makes it a lot harder for us to share and submit it through Google Classroom. We can also color code our folders, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Sometimes the color coding just helps us find things quickly and keeps us another layer of organization. Okay, we can organize and view our Drive a few different ways. You can organize and view it by the alphabetical, by the title of each of the documents and folders, which is again why labeling is very important. And we can also organize by the date that something was modified or viewed. So if we knew we just looked at it fairly recently, we can check last viewed, and this way we're able to view those documents in a more of a chronological order. Okay, we can also view our whole Drive in two different ways. We can view it in a list form or using buttons or big square boxes, and I'll show you how to toggle back and forth between those two. Depending on your preference, you may like one view versus another. We can also add our shared files to our Drive. You may have your teacher or someone in a group share a file with you, and it's in a different part of your Drive. We want to add it to our Drive using that Drive plus sign icon, and then sort it into our folder specific for that class. This way, we're not only finding it in our Drive, we're also finding it in the right folder. Okay, and then for files and folders that you're looking for most often, we can also star them, which just makes them easily accessible from the left toolbar. Okay, everybody. So let's take a look at the drive and actually just review some of those quick tips that we went through in the introduction. Okay, so here's just an example of my drive. You'll see I have my presentation just saved right there. And the first thing I want to do, the first big quick tip is that we want to create those folders. You want to create these folders before school even starts because we want to make sure that we have a place to save any file that our teacher is sharing with us or any assignment that we're working on. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create those files for each of our courses that we're taking. So I go to the left here where it says new on the top left, and I'm going to choose folder as my option. And I'm going to create folders for each of my class. So I'm going to create a science folder. I'm going to create a math folder. I'm going to create a ELA folder. I'm going to create a social studies folder. And then I'm also going to create that personal files folder because I want to make sure that I have a place to save all of those files that I may use beyond this school year. So I create my folder, all my folders. So I have a place for all of my documents for each of my classes to go to. So these folders become home for all of my assignments and all of my documents. Okay, so you'll see that when you add in your folders, it just kind of lists them. It gives them like this grayish looking folder, and it just kind of adds them how you create them. Okay, first thing you may want to do is you can actually organize alphabetically by name. So I can choose where it says name here, click, and you'll notice that now I'm alphabetized. And if I want to actually do a reverse alphabet, I can click that arrow. You may also find that you want to organize by the time something was modified or created. So I can choose last modified by me, or last opened by me. So if you're working collaboratively with somebody, you can always do make sure that you're looking at documents that only you're currently working on, or if you've opened up a bunch of documents over time, you want to look at the ones that you actually modified, not just opened. But it's another way to just keep your drive organized and we're finding things quickly. Okay, so I like to have mine alphabetical by the folder chronological in the right order, so ABC. Okay, so the other thing I like to do is color code. Just makes it really a little bit easier to find our folders, gives us that visual organization. So if you want to color code your folders, you can hover over and then you want to right click or double click. If you're on a Chromebook, you may have to use two fingers and click down as your right click. But when you do that, you'll notice that it gives me my option to change color. So depending on your organization style, maybe you want to do the rainbow, maybe your favorite subject's your favorite color. Basically, you want to just choose a color that is going to define that category. So for English, ELA, I'm a librarian. I love to read. I love English. So I'm going to make that yellow because yellow is my favorite color. Okay. And you want to give all of your folders, I'm going to make science green. And I'm going to make social studies orange. And I'm going to make math, I don't know, purple. Okay. And now I also have my personal files folder. I'm actually going to make that one red just because I want that one to stand out because I'm going to be using that year on year. Okay. So all of my folders are now color coded. Once you have everything color-coded, you also are able to organize by using that starred function on the left-hand side. Okay, starred files and folders are going to be documents and folders that you want quick access to. Sometimes our drives start to get really big. So figure you have, say, 5 or 6 folders for your classes this year. The next year, you're going to have another 5 or 6 folders for those classes and go on and go on and go on all through high school. And you may find that your personal files folder is getting kind of lost in the mix and you want to be able to access that fast. You may want to consider starring that one. So for my personal files, if I want to make sure I have access to it fast and it's in a separate place, kind of organized within my organized drive, I can again double click and choose where it says add to starred. When I do that, you'll see it immediately adds a star next to the file. And then if I come to the left toolbar and click here, you'll notice that it's listed right there. So only starred files and folders will be in this location. part about staying organized with the Google Drive is also adding things to your drive that have been shared to you. If you're in a classroom or you're working with a group or a partner, you may have documents that are being shared back and forth between you and your instructor or you and one of your peers. And they're not always automatically added to your drive. You'll see on the left-hand side, similar to where we have our starred and even our recent documents, we also have this shared with me folder. The shared with me folder is going to list all of the files that have been shared with you that you didn't originate or create, but now have access to. When I click my shared with me files, it's going to bring up all the files that have been shared with me. You'll even see who is the people or the person who has shared or created that file. If I wanted to add a file to my drive, I can do that two different ways. Okay, so here we have this document called the Hybrid Teacher. It's a book that I wanted to read that was shared with me. I want to add it to my drive so I can easily just find it and file it away. So I have two options. I can select it, and you'll see here in the top right, I'm actually going to move my box here. You'll see that it gives me a few different options. And one of them is this add shortcut to drive. It looks like the drive icon with a plus sign. Anything that I've highlighted, if I choose this option here, add shortcut to drive, or if I have it highlighted and I double click on it, you'll see I also have the add shortcut to drive there. So either place, when I select that, it gives me an option to now file it away within my drive. So I can go to my drive, I'm going to go to Sachem Public Library, and I'm going to find my folders, and I'm going to save this to my personal files because this is something I want to read and have for the future. I hit add shortcut, and now it's going to add this file that was originally just shared with me and actually place it into my drive for me to access. So if I go back on the left and choose my drive, I can go back to Sachem Library, getting organized, and in my personal files folder, I now have the document that was shared with me. So anytime you have files that are in your shared folder that you want to have access to or just be able to organize and file properly, find them in the shared with me and then be able to right click and add it to your drive and organize it into the file that makes sense. There are tons of ways to stay organized with the Google Drive. It's a really powerful program, and I definitely encourage you all to explore it and find ways to keep yourself organized as we work with this platform more and more. The two parting things that I want to just show to you guys and make sure that everyone is aware of, one of them is that you'll see at the top here, it's going to give you all of the exact location that you're currently in. I'm in my drive in a folder called Sachem Public Library and another folder called Getting Organized with Google Drive. And here is everything that's in that folder. Okay. This top part here is going to tell you exactly where you are within your drive. So you know where you're saving folders and files, that you know where you accessed it originally so you can find it. Okay. You also have the ability to search your drive. So anything that's saved in your Google Drive, if you know the title of it, which is why it's so important that we label all of our files properly, we can search by that file name and it will pull up a list of all of our documents. So even if I just start typing in my last name, it's going to give me all of these different documents that are keyworded with that. Okay. The other thing you'll notice here is on the right-hand side, your drive will also have a few different things. You have access to your Google Calendar. So if you have important dates, test dates, assignment due dates, group meetings, whatever the case may be, you can add them to your calendar. Again, another way to keep organized. Speaking of keep, if you have something that you found on the internet or something that looks really good or a note you want to leave for yourself, you can use Google Keep to keep yourself organized that way. Okay. And you can even make a list of all your tasks, almost like a to-do list. So again, another way to keep organized, almost using your agenda book that we had and digitizing that through Keep, Calendar, and Tasks. Okay. So again, use your drive, stay organized from the beginning, and we're all going to get through this school year together.